What's up, everybody? I wanted to bring you my first FC25 post-patch meta formation and tactics. Now, I came about these because this past weekend, it was actually just 2 days ago now, 1.5, I don't know, it's early morning where I'm at, whatever it was, I decided to give the post-patch a try. That's after a hiatus going back to early to mid-November. Right? There's an FC Pro event. It was terrible. Then I tried to play the game a little bit for fun after that, just briefly. It was terrible. I saw the writing on the wall. I said I'm done, which was a tough decision because this is a game I played my whole life. But as you can see, my intuition was correct as the game crashed and burned after that. What I did then was I went to UFL and gave that a shot, and I saw promise there. Now, I knew it wasn't going to be anything like FC for a while because it was a brand new game, but when the alternative is either eFootball, which is eFootball, and a broken FC, I figured we might as well get behind this new development company as long as they have a good basis to build on, which they absolutely did. Namely, I love the spacing and the manual defense because it creates a skill gap. It creates an opportunity for you to commit to learning and getting better, right? Practicing and improving. And I love that. Now, fast forward a little bit and things start to unravel. There's some holes in the game. UFL does a big patch. The patch doesn't really fix anything, right? To which case they're doing another patch tomorrow. But that's here nor there because right about the same time that I started my streaming, literally after I did my big showdown stream, which if you don't know, if you're not from the UFL side, that is their version of Foot Champs. Had a great stream, got the 15-win max, had some great moments throughout it, but on the unfortunate side, there was a lot of holes in the game that kind of showed themselves throughout this stream. Fast forward to the next day or 2 days later, whichever one, and another stream is occurring, and there's just so many negatives coming up. Long wait times, even longer than usual, which is crazy considering the wait times are already outrageous for UFL to get a game. Just the different bugs, the lagginess, it's just no matter what, it was nonsense. Then chat spoke up and said you got to try this new patch. Now, I heard a little bit of rumblings about it, but I had been focused on UFL, so I didn't pay too much attention to it. Once chat said how awesome it was, it's like nothing they've done before as far as patches go. I had to go give it a try. I mean, all we were doing was watching a load screen anyway for UFL, and thank goodness I did. Now, I know I would have eventually seen for myself through videos how good it was, and I've played the game enough to know, like, just from watching. So I would have came to this point. It was inevitable, but it came a little bit earlier because I listened to my chat, on Sunday, and that combined with just the awful state of UFL. The minute I started playing on Sunday, I realized that this was a special patch and that EA Sports finally, probably because they saw the bottom line was being hurt, they saw the exodus of players combined with a little bit of UFL being a threat, whatever it was, they brought us an incredible game, and there was just no way that UFL, especially in the state it was in, no matter what they do with this patch tomorrow, there's just no way they can compete, right? There's a difference between getting behind UFL when there's a broken FC and, there's time to grow and you're able to kind of make certain amount of mistakes because not only are you newer, but there's not really an alternative, right? It's a whole nother thing when you have this incredible game, right, that's already miles ahead in other areas, right? But now, on top of that, the gameplay is just phenomenal. So, UFL, they dropped the ball in many ways, right? Because they're taking one step forward and two steps back. But I will say, if it's any consolation, even if UFL did perfect, like even if this patch tomorrow is perfect, it's just EA Sports knocked it ridiculously out of the park. Again, not giving them credit. They should have done this years ago. EA Sports should have. But they finally did what they should have done, and the game's incredible. No matter what company would have released this post-patch version of FC25, that's a game everyone should be at because it has the best gameplay, right? To watch, to play, to stream, the whole nine. And when you add in the factor of how much content can be driven from this game compared to a very, very, very thin UFL as far as options go to stream different things, it's just inevitable that people are going to. Now, there's some that are completely hell-bent against EA Sports and EAFC. Well, okay, that's fine. But there's just not enough of those kind of players to drive a game and a player base. And even if you disagree with me in any way and think, no, UFL is good, or I can deal with it, or I like this or that, let's just say, eventually you're not going to want to wait 10, 20, 30, 40 minutes for players because the player base is so thin. You're not going to want to go in and play such laggy games because the only person you could possibly play is miles and miles away. Or you're definitely not going to want to just play that type of player that's so far away that it's just the game can't help but be laggy. And maybe you face him 4 or 5 times a night and maybe one or two other people 4 or 5 times a night. There's just no good options is what I'm trying to get at. Now, this is a tactics and formations video, but I just wanted to go into how I got here because I was super bullish on UFL, super supportive, and at the end of the day, this is just the best way to go. And I mean, my excitement for it, my want to play the game, I mean, it all speaks for itself. There's no doubt that anybody else that has played or will play this game will come to the same conclusion. And with that being said, that's how we got here. I went straight into Champs playoffs and then right into that Champs after I qualified. And that was my entire, you could call it practice round. Could care less about the scores or competing. It was all about feeling out the game, trying to get more of the details of the ins and outs based on what formation suits, this meta, this gameplay, right? What kind of players would we be looking for? Just everything that you need to succeed, right? And to put a good team together. So let's get into that part of this video. First thing I'll tell you is this. If you're like me and you took a hiatus and you're fearing you're behind the power curve, don't worry about that at all, because the way this game plays, yes, you're going to feel it in some areas if you go up against, the top echelon of cards released, right? But the good news is most players can't get those anyway. So, with that being said, this team is absolutely achievable, right? Meaning, like, even some of the players that you can't get because they were from SBCs or something, you can get comparable players easily, right? With just a little bit of grinding, or maybe even with some of the coins you have left over. So first I'm going to go into the formation as you've seen since I've been talking. It's a 4-2-3-1 wide, right? Full disclosure, I would have went with the 4-2-1-3. However, Adama Traore only can play right mid, not right wing, and Grealish doesn't have inside forward, which you'll see in player roles. That's what I want him to have. He doesn't have that for left wing. So the only difference in a 4-2-1-3 as opposed to 4-2-3-1 wide is that those left and right mids become left and right wingers. Everything else is the same, which is to say defensively, which is one of the strong points of this formation, it will be the exact same. Why I love this type of formation is because of the manual defense, right? And because of how many goals are going to be scored no matter how good you defend. You just need to mitigate how many they score, right? If you're able to minimize the amount of goals your opponent scores and then obviously you go score a lot, you'll be fine, clearly, right? I mean, stating the obvious there, but 2 CDMs will absolutely help you break up your opponent's attack before they even get a chance to score. That's extremely important. Now, as far as my goalkeeper goes, and I'll work my way up, you can get any goalkeeper you want. I go with Emiliano Martinez. 1, because I got him for free out of that season pass, whatever it was previously. And 2, Not only do I love him in real life, but he is excellent at coming off his line in that sweeper keeper role. It's more important than ever because that's going to save you in a lot of different scenarios where the opponent has an attacker that's got through on goal, and if you're able to pull your goalie out with quickness, you will make more saves. And Emiliano Martinez is brilliant at that. So just make sure whatever goal you do get, he is great at sweeper keeper. All right. If you got the free Emiliano Martinez, you still have him, but for some reason you're not playing him. He is absolutely a goalkeeper that's great for this meta. He will save you more often than you can even think about. When the opponent gets through and you're able to quickly pull him off his line, and just the animations he's shown so far. So Martinez in goal is a brilliant choice. Moving to the back four, starting with my center backs. I just did this Stones SBC, and then I went out and purchased Milito, which is pretty cheap. I think like 130 or something, 130K. Both of them have something in common. They both have Anticipate Plus, which has always been pretty much the best center back play style to have, but it's even more important now because it is so hard to defend, right? It's all manual now. The best chance you have, though, is with Anticipate Plus. It essentially locks in tackles for you, right? It anticipates the right move to make the tackle, and it will give you the most automation you're going to have as far as locking in and winning the ball back, center back wise. And since headers aren't as prominent, even though they have aerial, or I think one of the two or both do, it's just not prominent, right? But they do have that just in case, or at least one does. So that's the center backs. Either one of them are gonna be the best defensively on corners. I will say that this team isn't going to be the greatest at that. So you may want to, if you have a larger player like I have Holland, or someone, you may want to try to get them back on corners, especially if your opponent, tries to go for a straight corner, straight header. They aren't OP, but you still can finish them. You still will want at least one player good in the air to kind of mark out. What I would say is just mark out, most importantly, the near post. You still want to watch anywhere, watch their runs and everything, but for the most part, if people aren't going for short corners, they're going for that near post. Just a little side note. Now, moving to my wing backs. On the left, I've had this wing back for a while. It's Andrew Robertson. I've always loved him in FC. I think he was a not SBC player, but a free player too. I can't quite remember 100%, but either way, he's an excellent wing back. I keep my defenders, you'll see in the player roles, on fullback and defend. But if and when, because there will be times when I manually send them up the field or they dribble up the field, he's excellent at that. He has whip pass plus. Defensively, he's extremely solid. So on the right side, it's one of the winter wildcard mix-ups similar to Milito. A lot of you know this. If you don't know, though, Milito, as well as my right back, McManaman, are both not defenders at all. Milito is a striker, and McManaman is like a cam/winger, wing midfielder, right? So these are winter wildcard mix-ups, but they're both great cards. McManaman also has whip pass plus, right? He has excellent on-the-ball ability too. So, again, even though I have my wingbacks on fullback defend, which they both have that in plus roles too, by the way, they both are excellent on the ball too, which is important for your wingbacks. Moving into CDMs, I went with Manu, who I literally packed as part of my rewards from this past weekend champs. And then Caicedo I got way earlier in a showdown. They tied Man United. Him and Ugarte both got like the +1 or whatever. And now there's a new evolution where Caicedo is going to be buffed up even more. And he looks incredible. He already was super, in my opinion, OP for his cost, right? Obviously, there were better and are better CDMs as you go higher up the chain. but he is still phenomenal, especially considering he was very cheap to get, and now there's an Evo with him. And then Manu, seeing reviews, and notice I said seeing. I didn't just listen to people's, opinions on him. I wanted to see how he looked in game. So I researched that a bit on YouTube, and seeing how Manu plays, I think he's going to work very well with Caicedo, and I like them both for the same reason, which is their durability, but their ability to, I guess you could say, their agility, their ability to move in and out with attackers, which is going to be extremely important because of how quick the little touches in and out are and how quick the movement of the ball is. Both Caicedo and Manu are going to be great in that holding role. Essentially, it's the number 6 role. I do double number 6s there, basically, as far as their player roles. You'll see that in a bit. But they're both excellent. So they're agile enough to stick with attackers and then win the ball. And then once they win the ball, instead of kind of being stuck on it and possibly losing it right back because they're not good at dribbling, both of these players are not only good at dribbling, so they can dribble out of the pressure, but they're excellent passers as well. And Caicedo is also going to get more of a passing boost once this evolution is done. Now, Manu you can go get, and you can get him for cheap. Caicedo, if you did not do the showdown, you can't get him. But you can definitely see and hear why I got Caicedo. Go look him up and see on Footbin and go see kind of his general body type and play style and stuff. And you could absolutely go find a similar CDM if you kind of like where I'm going with why I chose him in this formation. Now, moving into the attack. Adama Traore, still OP. He was from the season 1, season pass, again, or whatever you call it. Ridiculous. He's just Adama in FC. If you know, you know. If you don't know, I'll tell you, he's always cracked, plays well above his stats. Despite lower shooting, his shooting's still amazing. Despite being a season 1 early on card, he can blow by defenders left and right. He's super strong, right? Super durable too. I mean, the guy can get through any type of tackle and just run through like a machine. I mean, point blank period. He's not easily knocked off the ball at all, so that strength really does translate. And so he just runs wild out on the right. He raises havoc. A lot of people have even and still continue to put him at striker, and he has always been tough to play against. I remember going up against him, and he's just a beast, man. And so he's still viable. By no means can you say he's behind any power curve. Grealish is also incredible, right? Some may not agree with me on Grealish, but he was another player that I got from a season pass or whatever the heck it's called, and he has turned out to be amazing. I could have got him or Malin. Many people went with Malin, but he's just surgical with his dribbling, and then he has great finesse shots too, great finishing. So having an attack with 2 wingers like Adama and Grealish, you're going to score goals. You're going to do well. So that's who I have out wide. I will say the Zidane in that cam position would not be my first choice. However, they gave us a free Zidane. I mean, not only that, but they gave us an Evo for that free Zidane to buff him up. And I just simply can't have him on the bench. I mean, I'm going to give him a go. Let's see if he does better in this post patch. I didn't use this version. I had the 94 version. The other 94. This version will be 94 once it's Evo'd. But the regular 94 version I had in Champs, Playoffs and Champs. And he did pretty well. But it's the same way as he was for me when I did his SBC, which turned out to be overall a disappointment. But so far, out of Champs, Playoffs, and Champs, he can make some amazing plays, right? Passes, finishing and stuff, but he's just too stiff for my liking typically. Again, we're going to try this version out. He's in the middle of an evolution. Once he's done, I'll give you some feedback as I play with him more. But that will be my wingers, my cam, and last but not least, Haaland up top. I did his Player of the Month SBC. Again, this was a while ago. Put so much fodder into it, and he's for sure worth it. I will say he's not nearly as OP as he is in UFL. One, because his weak foot isn't 4-star like it is over there, which makes a huge difference. And 2, he's just more stiff on the ball, not as good. He's not as dynamic as the Holland over at UFL. They made him borderline a cheat code. Now, lately over there, people haven't been using him as much because headers were nerfed, and he was just incredible at headers. But I will say over here, what is similar is just his strength, his power, his presence up top, his ability to just run through defenders and just constantly be a nuisance when the ball's in and around the goal, whether it's in the air, on the ground, or even like if it's just one of those awkward balls, because he is very acrobatic. I forgot, let me see this one. I forgot if it has acrobatic. It has acrobatic plus. I should have seen that just on the regular screen, but he has press proven. He even has bruiser, a defending playstyle. Then, of course, power header and power shot on regular. He does not have the advanced forward, which a lot of people are going with on that center forward or striker role. But I will take the poacher plus either way. So let's get into the player roles now. Actually, before we do that, I'm sorry. I wanted to show you my bench real quick just to give you an idea of where I was at. Some of the players that could absolutely be strikers: Lindsey Horan and Carpenter, the CM and right back. Horan's more of a cam than a CM, but she can play box to box. And then Carpenter right back. If you have either of these, because Horan was an SBC and Carpenter was, I think, a free card, but you had to do some squad building stuff. But if you have either of these two, I can tell you from firsthand, they are brilliant. Do not be afraid to start either or both of them if you can. I very well could end up, or would have ended up, putting Horan in her place of Zidane, and very well will put her in as a sub. But as far as right back goes, even though Carpenter could play there without having a fullback plus, that's the reason why I didn't. I wanted my fullbacks and all my defenders to be on point with their player roles and play styles and everything else. So anyways, either one of them could be starters. Striker, Keane is excellent. Robbie Keane was like this day hero or whatnot, and I went and did his SBC, and he is brilliant. Even though he's lower overall rated to 85, I could care less if he is a 78 instead of an 85. He plays incredible, and he's absolutely a viable substitute for sure, but could even start if you wanted to go that route. He could absolutely start. So if you still have him and for some reason he's just lingering in your club, you think he might be too much behind the power curve, particularly because of his overall, do not listen to that. Ignore it. Endo, somebody who I did the recent evolution. It was called Monster something. You guys will know what I'm talking about. I did that just for the heck of it as I was playing champs and stuff, and he's very good in there. But once I packed my new, and then I already have Caicedo, I just felt like they're better. But Endo, especially with an evolution, because his original card's like that 85 overall, he's like 23,000. Absolutely a viable option in that CM / CDM role. Then Romero at center back he's okay. I remember I had him starting for a little while, but he started to feel, a little outmatched against a lot of attackers I was going to. Even though at the time when I got Romero, I packed him, he wasn't like, he was still pretty decent amount. He still had a cost to him. But right now, he's just good for the bench, and I probably will very rarely be subbing my two center backs out just because of where their stamina is at. And I do think both Milito and Stones are quite better than Romero. Now going to left, I already talked to you about Carpenter. So last but not least would be my left back, Nuno Tavares. Excellent stats, especially for the time I got him. Not necessarily starter material, but absolutely can be a super sub. He's good on the ball. He's got all the roles you need as far as fullback, plus, false back, attacking wing back, everything but wing back. He's got at least a plus on. He can also play left mid. Obviously, you wouldn't want him there, typically left mid, but as a sub, I mean, not terrible stats in a pinch, right? Especially if maybe you're trying to close out a game and you just want a more defensive player. You put him in on the left for whoever your left mid is, and you're golden. So a good player to have, and I think he was another player that was from a squad battles objective thing where you had to go into squad battles. So you may or may not have him, just like many of these players on here. I will say, last but not least, a player I don't know about, but I got him on a loan for an FC Pro objective. And Bino Gittins, no idea how to pronounce it or if that's right, but he looks pretty cracked, honestly, and he can play both left mid and striker. So with the 9 games that I have him, I figured I would just use him as a sub for now. So that's the starting lineup. Let's get into the player roles. First of all, before getting the player roles, though, I want to show you my defensive approach is the balance 50, right? Your second option, you could go with a higher line at 70. I strongly suggest you start at 50, though, and just see how you do with it, because the strikers are very quick. There is no mechanism for the center backs to catch up anymore. So it's much more important that you make sure you don't get blown by and send strikers or whoever attackers in on your goalie alone, right? That's why I'd go with the 50 line much more than I would go for the 70. If you do go for that 70, that high line, you just got to make sure you're watching your back line. Got to make sure you're ready with your center backs to drop them back if you need to. Or be very disciplined on catching your opponent offside. One or the other, but I would go with this balance 50 if I were you. Now, next thing I want to go to is the build-up counter. Balanced is also viable now. Before the patch, almost always, if not always, it went with counter because of the number of players it gets forward and because of the movement that's created. It was especially important before the patch because the movement was so bad. But even with counter, a lot of times you had to just go with player lock, whereas now I rarely, if ever, use player lock. Just the whole time from Champs playoffs all the way through Champs, I never even thought about using it. And before the patch, that's literally all that you had to use player lock runs to get any type of movement. So, again, defensive approach, balance 50. Build-up style, right there, build-up style is counter. Last but not least, going into the player roles, very, very important. My goalkeeper, sweeper, keeper, and build-up. That is, let's say, the attacking most, pushed up most settings you can have on your goalkeeper, which is extremely important right now. They will cut off the opposition getting it on your goal at least once, probably many times, and it will save you having a goalie that, one, has these settings, and two, is good enough getting off their lines like I told you Emiliano Martinez is. Moving to right back. McManaman is on fullback defend, just like my left back is on fullback defend. Robertson, too, on the left side, simply because I can manually move them forward when I want to, and then I do not have to rely on anything with AI getting them back. Now, with how potent the attack is, I think it's extra important to have your whole defense kept in shape and only move them up manually as you either dribbling or you play give and go or send them on a manual run up. Other than that, fullback defend, obviously center backs, as always, you never touch the center back settings. You see here both of mine, Melito and Stones, have Defender Plus. They're on Defender and Defend. Simple as that. Moving to the CDMs. Again, simple. They have the same setup, which is holding, ball winning. Now, for you, if you try ball winning and you don't like it, or you just like defend better, that's absolutely viable. Moving into the attack. Both wingers, same exact thing. Inside, forward, and balanced, right? I want them pushed up and in with my striker, similar to how they would look in the 4-2-1-3. But I just want them working with Holland pushed further up the field. Instead of having attack, though, I have them on balance because I found an attack there just a little too pushed away from receiving a pass from the defenders. It kind of almost alienated them, if you will, when I had them on inside forward attack. So I switched that to balance after the weekend. That's what I learned after the weekend, I should say, with this post patch, is that if they're an attack, they're a little less available as far as passes go. And sometimes that can be a problem when you're trying to move the ball quickly, especially when you're under pressure. You want your wingers available to receive a pass to then help you in the build-up. Okay? And then in the center of the field, dead center, I have Zidane playing that shadow striker role, and he is on attack, right? I want him working that area behind Haaland, sometimes even overlapping and passing Haaland and being like an undetected runner, which with the stats Zidane has and just that extremely good attacking awareness, he can be absolutely great in this role. And then last but not least is my striker, Haaland. Many people, right, have the, advanced forward on their striker right now. I like advanced forward, but I also love poacher. Obviously, Haaland has a poacher plus and then attack. It pretty much explains itself. If for some reason he's not performing, we could switch that to advanced striker, advanced forward easily. So again, I basically had to get used to this game, get used to this new patch coming from UFL, but it's really an all-new game, period, right? There's a lot of players, so if you're like me coming over, my point is don't feel like you're just going to get smoked. There's many players that have been playing FC that are just totally just lost with this new patch. They're totally learning it, no different than myself. Maybe you're in the same boat, whether you came from UFL or just took a break. And like I said earlier, if you did come from UFL, you have an added bonus that the defending is closer to UFL. Right now in this post-patch of FC 25, it's closer to UFL than to even the players playing this very game FC leading up to the patch, which is, a good thing for you being able to come in and compete. Same with the power curve. Do not worry or think that your team's going to be so far behind. With how open the space is and how much of a skill gap is created just with this post-patch in general, you can take a team even if they're not all the highest rated players. You can absolutely take your team and compete. And even if you have been playing FC, but for some reason you aren't grinding or you just can't afford certain players or whatever it is, I absolutely can help you find players in whatever your budget is that can work. You don't have to worry about being behind the power curve. You don't have to worry about missing this, that, and the other. You will be just fine with players in the market that are very, very cheap right now. And we can go over that in the future. Just wanted to put that out there. Please give these tactics a try. Tweak them to your liking, right? Don't just take everything I'm saying and all the settings, copy and paste them, and then, hope for success. You have to tweak all these things to match your play style. And it's the same with the players. You have to tweak which players you use to match your play style. So, with that being said, keep grinding, keep having fun, and we will see you next time.